Daniel Reed was crumpled on a downtown sidewalk, and the city moved around him like nothing happened. The 35-year-old tech investor who had turned failing products into gold just watched a $60 million deal explode in his face. His mother lay in intensive care. His heart hammered like it wanted out. Then his world went dark. People stepped over the man in the tailored suit. A few glanced, kept walking. Not their problem. But a 7-year-old saw him stop breathing between one blink and the next. "Sir?" the girl whispered. "Sir, can you hear me?" Her name was Sunshine. She wore a yellow dress with tiny suns stitched along the hem and white sneakers scuffed from playground chases. She pressed one palm to the man's chest. Breath. Barely. She grabbed his phone, thumbed 911, and spoke in a small, steady voice that held the kind of courage adults forget. "There's a man on the ground. He isn't waking up. Please send an ambulance." She had no idea she was saving Daniel Reed, headline billionaire. He had no idea the child kneeling beside him was his daughter, the daughter he never knew. The daughter born after one night that shouldn't have been forgettable, with a woman named Olivia. Before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from and your age. Tap subscribe, hit the bell, and drop Team Sunshine if you're rooting for her already. Now settle in. This story goes from a sidewalk to second chances. Atlanta in August felt like hot breath. From the wall-to-ceiling windows of Reed Capital's 41st floor, the city shimmered. Daniel's reflection looked older than 35. Hollow eyes, clenched jaw. A suit that wore him instead of the other way around. The conference room behind him had emptied without handshakes. The Tokyo Fund had smiled politely, then killed the deal with a few careful words. 60 million gone. Months of work turned to vapor. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Daniel Reed. "Mr. Reed, this is Dr. Weathers at Street Bridget's. It's your mother. She suffered an ischemic stroke. She's stabilized, but you need to come." The room tilted. The air thinned. "I'm on my way," he said, though his voice didn't sound like his. He cut across Peachtree, the sun pressing down hard. Breathing went tight. Vision tunneled. He counted breaths the way a therapist once taught him. It didn't work. The sidewalk surged up and took him. Somewhere a kid laughed. Somewhere a bus groaned past. Then nothing. Across the street, Sunshine cataloged butterflies the way other kids collect stickers. She and her mother, Olivia, had walked to the park for sky time after Olivia's day shift at the hospital. Sunshine liked to lie in the grass and name clouds. Today she chased a monarch toward the curb, heard a heavy thud, and turned. A man lay folded on the concrete, face gray. "Mama says breathing matters first," Sunshine whispered, kneeling. She watched his chest. It rose, shallow. She tapped his shoulder. No response. His phone had fallen close to his hand. She picked it up with careful fingers and did exactly what Olivia taught her to do. "Call, speak clearly, stay on the line." "An ambulance is coming," the dispatcher said. "Stay with him." "Okay," Sunshine said. "My name is Sunshine, like the sky." Olivia's voice cut through traffic. "Sunny? Sunny." Olivia dashed across the street, dark hair pulled into a tired bun, scrubs replaced by jeans and a plain tee. She dropped to her knees, nurse mode switching on before the shock caught up. Pulse, pupils. "Quick scan for bleeding." "Good job," she told Sunshine, voice steady, hands sure. "You did everything right." She pressed 2 fingers to the man's neck again and really looked at his face. Oh. Olivia had met this mouth, this jawline, this unruly dark hair. One night 8 years ago, a gala fundraising dinner she worked as a volunteer. A slow dance when the band played an old soul song. A hotel bar that felt like some other planet. No promises, no last names, just spark. Then life slammed shut around her shifts, bills, a pink line on a test, and silence when she tried to reach him. This was him. Daniel, she breathed, and hated that the name could still crack her open. Sirens burned through traffic. Paramedics swept in and took over. Olivia introduced herself to the lead medic, rattled off a concise summary, then guided Sunshine into the back of the ambulance with her. Sunshine climbed onto the jump seat and held Daniel's fallen phone like a treasure. When Daniel's eyes fluttered open, the first thing he saw was a ceiling panel with a scratch shaped like a hook. The second was a girl in yellow, The third was a woman whose face he recognized like he recognized the move his body used to make in mid-court pickup games. Automatic, old, his. She stared back, stunned and fierce and familiar. "Olivia?" he managed. The name evaporated in oxygen, hiss and bustle. His eyes rolled back. The world slipped again. They admitted him fast. Dehydration, exhaustion, stress-induced syncope. Olivia had worked enough ER shifts to predict the notes before a doctor wrote them. Sunshine colored in a child's waiting room booklet and asked every 3 minutes if the man was okay. "He will be," Olivia said, and kept saying it until the door opened and a doctor invited them back for a short visit. Daniel sat propped up, IV ticking, color seeping back. The vulnerability of a hospital gown stripped the armor he wore in the world. He looked up. The room shrank to 3 people. "You came," he said. Sunshine bounded forward. "I called the ambulance. My mom taught me." Daniel swallowed. "Then I owe you everything." His eyes flicked to Olivia and stayed. They said things his mouth didn't shock. Relief, questions. 1,000 questions. "Hi," Olivia said. She couldn't summon anything smarter. "How are you feeling?" "Like I fell through the day and hit the ground." He glanced at Sunshine again. "What's your name?" "Sunshine." It landed like a bell. He looked from the child's eyes sea gray, curious to Olivia's. Math happened behind his gaze. 8 years, 1 night, a yellow dress, a jawline that mirrored his. He opened his mouth. A nurse stepped in. "Mr. Reed, your mother is awake. The ICU has her stable. Everything else froze. She's awake?" The nurse nodded. "Cognitive signs are strong. You can see her, but you're going by wheelchair." Olivia moved before he argued, unclipping the monitor leads with practiced hands. "You'll take the chair," she said. Non-negotiable. He didn't fight. Sunshine pushed the chair like she'd been hired for it. The ICU hummed in its careful way. Daniel reached for his mother's hand the way a little boy does. Dorothy Reed squeezed back, thin but stubborn. "Daniel, stop scaring nurses," she rasped. "You scared me first," he said, forehead against her knuckles. Sunshine drifted closer. "Hi, I'm Sunshine. I called the ambulance for your son." Dorothy studied the girl, then Olivia, then her son, eyes sharp as a hawk's. She had raised Daniel alone after his father left. She knew the tilt he got when he was hiding something. She also knew genetics. "Come here, sweetheart," Dorothy said. Sunshine went to her. "You've got a brave heart. That counts more than most things." For an hour the room held a strange peace. Sunshine told Dorothy how butterflies trick crows. Daniel watched the girl's face like he was memorizing a map. Olivia stood at the edge, feeling the ground rearrange itself under her feet. Dorothy made the move. "Daniel, I need cold water." The ice melted. He left. Dorothy turned to Olivia. "How old?" she asked quietly. 7. The word wobbled out. Dorothy's eyes softened. "Does he know?" Olivia shook her head. "I tried to tell him, once. Messages, never, reached him. I stopped trying." Dorothy nodded, a calculation clicking into place. "He wouldn't have chosen not to know," she said. "Not my son." She squeezed Olivia's fingers. "Don't run before you let the truth breathe." Daniel returned with ice water. His gaze bounced between them, puzzled. Dorothy smiled and asked Sunshine about her favorite book. The moment shelved itself for later. By evening, they wheeled Daniel back. He insisted on walking Olivia and Sunshine toward the exit, a nurse shadowing them with a disapproving eyebrow. At the sliding doors he stopped. "I need to say something," he told Olivia. He lowered his voice because Sunshine was running a finger along the seam of a planter and humming to herself. 8 years ago wasn't casual for me. I tried to find you. I had your first name and a charity guest list that went nowhere. Then life swallowed me." Olivia steadied herself against the railing. "I called you," she whispered. "I emailed. I left messages at your office. I was pregnant and terrified. The inbox spit my letters back. Calls never connected. I took the hint and learned how to raise a human by myself." Daniel's throat worked. "I never saw anything. Nothing. I would've." He cut the sentence. "I would've been there." "I don't know what to do with that," Olivia said. I told Sunshine her father had important work far away so she would never think she wasn't wanted. She doesn't know it could be you. Not yet. We go slow. He looked like the word slow hurt. He looked at Sunshine and swallowed it. Okay, he said, your pace. But I'm not disappearing. They traded numbers. The contact flashed on both screens. For the first time in 8 years, the line between them wasn't dead. That night, Olivia tucked Sunshine into bed in their 2-room apartment, read 3 pages, kissed a forehead, and stood in the dark kitchen with both palms flat on the counter. Her phone lit up. Unknown no more. Daniel, I found it. Olivia, found what? Daniel, an old email account, a filter I never made. Your messages, dozens, hidden, forwarded to trash. And replies that weren't mine, telling you to stop. I didn't write them. Silence built between pulses of her heart. Olivia. Who would do that? Daniel, my assistant back then. She had access and feelings she shouldn't have. I fired her years ago for something else. This too, it seems. He didn't finish. Some words do no good. Olivia slid down a cabinet to the floor and laughed once. The way people laugh when a dam breaks. Not joy. Release. Olivia, I believe you. That's not the same as forgetting. Daniel, I know. Tell me how to show up. The lab felt like a dentist's office with fewer magazines. Sunshine perched on a chair and wiggled her feet. Is it a shot? She asked. No, Daniel said. A cotton swab. Easy. He kept his voice light, his hands shook. They swabbed Sunshine's cheek. They swabbed his. Olivia went last. The tech sealed the envelopes like they contained thunder. Can we get ice cream now? Sunshine asked when they finished. Mama promised. They walked to a small place that made strawberry taste like July. Sunshine put sprinkles on everything. Daniel bought a tiny cup for Olivia too, and she tried to hand him cash, and he quietly waved it away, and she quietly let him, but only this once. They sat outside, sun gentler now, a breeze moving heat like a curtain. Sunshine talked about her 2nd-grade play, where she was going to be Saturn because she liked rings. She asked Daniel if sharks sleep. He admitted he didn't know and promised to look it up. He asked if she liked jokes. She told him one so bad he nearly cried, laughing anyway. He noticed her sneakers were tight, the seam pressing against the bone of a small big toe. He noticed the safety pin holding one side of Olivia's bag. He didn't announce donations or solutions. He just noticed. And the noticing carved new rooms inside him. Over the next days he showed up, sitting in the back row for Sunshine's play, dropping off flowers afterward because Olivia had mentioned daisies were Sunshine's favorite, bringing a book about butterflies with diagrams so crisp Sunshine traced them with awe. When he visited Dorothy's rehab room, Sunshine came too and told the story of how whale sharks aren't actually whales, and Dorothy looked from granddaughter to son and hid a smile behind her cup of tea. On day 3, Daniel sat in his car under the garage's hard light, phone screen bright in his lap. The email from the lab had 2 sentences that rewrote his cells. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. He texted Olivia, no punctuation, no preamble, it's me. Her reply came fast. I know, come over, we tell her together. Olivia's apartment smelled like laundry and lemon cleaner. Daniel held a gift he didn't know how to present. A butterfly habitat kit engineered for a new life. Sunshine opened the door and squealed when she saw it. Is this for real? For me? For real for you, Daniel said. They assembled it on the small coffee table. Then Olivia called Sunshine over. Her voice was the voice you use for news that will reshape the ground. Sweetheart, can you sit with us? Sunshine sat between them, small hands in both their larger ones. Daniel felt her pulse through skin and bone and time. You've always asked about your daddy, Olivia said. I told you he had important work far away. That wasn't the whole truth. He didn't know about you because a grown-up did something wrong with messages, but now he knows, and he's here. Sunshine frowned like a detective in Chapter 5. Here where? Daniel turned, heart in his throat. Here, Sunshine, I'm your dad. The room went still. Sunshine studied his face the way kids do when they choose what to believe. Her eyes filled. Really? Really, he said, voice breaking clean in 2. I didn't know. If I had known, I would have been here from before you were even born. I would have been the first person to hold you after Mama." Sunshine launched forward and wrapped herself around his neck so fast the air left his lungs. "I wished for you," she whispered. "Every time I blew on a dandelion, I felt every wish," he said, "even when I didn't know why." Olivia wiped tears, quiet and shaking. Joy doesn't erase years. It just lights them from a different angle. Daniel looked at her over Sunshine's shoulder and tried to put apology and awe and promise into one glance. Olivia nodded once. They would figure the rest out. You don't build a family in headlines. You build it in small, stubborn choices. Daniel adjusted his company for a life he wanted more. He elevated his managing partner, cut his hours, and canceled the myth that being the first to arrive and last to leave equaled love for the job. He still worked. He just stopped letting work devour him. He read with Sunshine 3 afternoons a week. He learned the geography of her school pickup line and the rhythm of second-grade newsletters. He kept snacks in his glove compartment because kids transform from fine to fainting in under 6 minutes. He learned the names of her stuffed animals and made them talk. He sat on the kitchen floor with her when she cried because she thought she heard a moth by accident, and he listened like it was a board meeting with one agenda item. Dorothy recovered better than any chart expected. Cane, therapy, determination. On Sundays they ate together at her bungalow with squeaky porch steps. Sunshine beat Daniel at cards, and Dorothy pretended not to cheat while winking at her granddaughter. With Olivia, it was steadier, slower. They texted about drop-offs and homework. They added each other to school forms. They tried laughter in spots where silence had lived. Trust is not a switch. It's muscle you work gently. One afternoon, Daniel arrived at Olivia's place and found the front door lock loose. The building had a break-in that week, teen boys who ran when they heard a shout, a quick grab at a backpack that left a bruise on Sunshine's arm. Olivia played it down to avoid scaring her daughter. Daniel saw the bruise anyway when Sunshine reached for a cup. He took 3 breaths so he wouldn't flip the table in a showy, useless way. Then he did something quiet and radical with his resources. He bought a small, well-kept 4-unit building in a safer neighborhood. The lease he offered Olivia had a normal rate with a long runway and a clause that let her walk if she ever felt pressured. "I'm not trying to fix you," he said. "I'm trying to keep Sunshine's walk home boring." Olivia stood in the apartment's doorway and looked at the light on the hardwood. She had spent a decade making small spaces feel like dignity. Saying yes made pride itch. Saying no felt like choosing fear over safety. She signed. They painted Sunshine's room a soft purple together and strung paper butterflies across the window. Their life started to have a rhythm that didn't hurt. Sunshine learned to ride a bike in the new park. Daniel ran beside her with his hand on the seat until he realized she had been sailing on her own for half a block, legs pumping, mouth wide in a scream laugh. When she fell and scraped her knee, he cleaned it exactly the way Olivia taught him, and Sunshine announced that he did it gentler than the school nurse. Daniel turned away to hide his eyes. Bedtime became a relay, one night at Olivia's, one at Daniel's, Sunday dinner at Dorothy's, anchoring the week like a lighthouse bell. And then there were the other moments, small and sharp. The night the water heater in Olivia's new place hiccuped, and Daniel showed up with tools and an online tutorial, cursing softly when he scraped a knuckle, both of them laughing because neither knew what they were doing, and yet somehow they made hot water sing again. The morning after Sunshine's science fair, when she whispered to Olivia that she wanted Dad to be the one who taped her butterfly poster to the fridge because his taping was straight, Olivia's throat tightened, and she handed him the tape. The Tuesday, when a client tried to pull Daniel into a dinner that would drag him back to a life that had almost killed him, he glanced at a photo on his desk. Sunshine asleep with a paperback on her chest, Olivia caught mid-laugh beside her. He texted his partner to take the dinner and went to read chapter 6 out loud on a pink rug instead. Trust moved. Slowly. But it moved. 9 weeks after the sidewalk, they ended up on Olivia's balcony after Sunshine fell asleep. The city hummed. The night air was kind. "I've been afraid of us," Olivia said, honest as a blade. "Afraid this is obligation wearing romance clothes. Afraid if I let you in, something will tear. Again." Daniel didn't reach for her hand at first. "I'm afraid every time I leave your building, and Sunshine asks why I can't stay." he said. I'm afraid of messing this up. I'm afraid of not earning what I want. What do you want? Olivia asked, though she knew. Mornings, he said. All of them. I want to pour cereal while you pretend coffee is a food group. I want wet towels on the floor to annoy us. I want to be the person who hears you exhale when a day finally loosens. You're very bad at casual. She smiled despite herself. Terrible, he agreed. She looked at him a long time. His face was not the face of a man who needed to win something. It was the face of a man who had lost and lived and learned bone-deep changes. Okay, she said. We try. Slow. Real. He didn't kiss her then. He stood and asked an earnest question. Would you go on a real date with me? No co-parent buffer. Just us. Her yes felt like a door opening, soundlessly on well-oiled hinges. 2 nights later, they ate at a small place that looked like candlelight had been invented there. They did not try to impress each other. They told the missing years the way you tell a friend who can hold hard things. He talked about panic and the lie he'd believed that money could fill a father-shaped hole. She talked about ultrasounds with no one's hand to squeeze, and shifts that bled into mornings, and how joy can live next to exhaustion without asking permission. After dinner, they walked through the park where sunshine had found him. Daniel stopped and turned to face her fully. That night, 8 years ago, he said. You felt it too, didn't you? I felt like the room rearranged around one person, she said. I felt stupid for months, because how do you miss a stranger? It hurt. It also gave me sunshine. I wouldn't trade the result, even if I wanted an easier road. They kissed under a streetlight. It was not a movie kiss. It was a quiet one that said, okay then. Let's mean this. When they picked Sunshine up from Dorothy's, the girl took one look at them and grinned. You kissed, she announced. How did you know? Daniel asked, scooping her up. You look like happy people in the book section, she said, as if that were a recognized category. Is it okay with you? Olivia asked. Sunshine nodded solemnly. It's what I prayed for. 6 months slipped past like a good song. They lived the normal mess, lost library books, a stomach bug that took out the household in shifts, a leak under Dorothy's kitchen sink that turned into a family Saturday. They also lived the quiet wins, Sunshine's first piano recital on a school stage that smelled like dust and cardboard. Dorothy walking without her cane for 5 whole minutes while Sunshine cheered like soccer fans. Daniel braiding hair badly until he learned. The rubber band always snapping him once. Bits of Daniel moved in. A toothbrush. A sweater thrown over the back of Olivia's favorite chair. The habit of him reaching for 2 mugs instead of one at breakfast. The habit of Olivia texting him a photo of the sky when it did something beautiful. 9 months after the sidewalk, Dorothy called a family dinner and then dropped news at dessert. This house feels big now, she said, breaking a brownie in half and pretending it was an afterthought. The senior community down the road has a garden and book club. I think I'll try it. If only there were people I loved who needed a house with a yard and good bones. Daniel choked on a laugh. Olivia went still. We don't have to decide tonight, Dorothy added with a wink that wasn't really a wink. Sunshine's eyes went round. We could live here, with the big backyard for caterpillars? Daniel looked at Olivia. Only if your mom wants it. Olivia heard her own heartbeat in her ears. She pictured mornings that weren't negotiated. She pictured a door opening and Daniel stepping through it with a backpack in one hand and a paper bag of still warm bread in the other. She pictured fear. She pictured saying, yes. Let's try, she said. Let's be a real family in a real house and see what we build. Moving looked like boxes, labeled in handwriting only the person who wrote it could read. It looked like Sunshine picking which window got the butterfly mobiles. It looked like Dorothy teaching Daniel how to fix the screen door latch the right way while he pretended he hadn't already watched a tutorial. On the first night in the new house, after Sunshine fell asleep in a room painted the exact pale purple she chose, Olivia and Daniel stood in a doorway and looked at each other like people who'd walked a long road and found a porch light on. This is real, she said, half wonder, half warning. It is, he said, and we'll keep it real when it's messy. That's the promise. They kept it, imperfectly and on purpose. A year and a half after Sunshine dialed 911 with steady little fingers, the backyard was a party. Face paint, laughter, a bounce house. Sunshine turned 9 and beamed so bright even the sun sat down to watch. As dusk slid in, guests drifted away with paper bags of leftover cupcakes. Dorothy settled on the porch with a blanket and a smile that knew too much. Daniel took Olivia's hand and led her to the gazebo. At the yard's edge, lights strung across its beams like a constellation. He didn't kneel right away. He held both her hands and said what mattered. "I thought the day I collapsed was the worst day of my life," he told her. "It was actually the hinge. I lost a deal. I almost lost my mother. I found a daughter. I found my way back to the only woman I ever looked for without a map." He took a small box from his pocket and opened it. The ring inside wasn't loud. It was exactly right, an oval sapphire the color of Sunshine's eyes, cupped by small diamonds that caught the string lights and threw tiny stars around the gazebo. "Olivia," he said, voice steady, hands not. "Marry me. Not because a story wants a bow. Because I want mornings and taxes and dentist appointments. Because I want to argue about paint and makeup before bed. Because I want to be your person on the day nothing goes right. Because I want to keep what we made from a sidewalk and a second chance." Her yes was a laugh that turned to a cry that turned to yes again. He slid the ring on. It fit like they'd measured both of them for it, which they had, in a way, with every ordinary day they chose. Sunshine screamed from the porch because Dorothy had told her to count to 100, and she had counted to 43 and couldn't hold it anymore. She ran full speed, collided with them, and they all went laughing to the gazebo floor in a tangle of limbs and commitment. Sometimes the best vows start as a dog pile. They married 3 months later, under the same lights. Sunshine wore a white dress with tiny embroidered butterflies and took her job as flower girl like an official assignment. Dorothy cried behind sunglasses and claimed pollen. The reception looked like a neighborhood block party that had read a poem and dressed up. Sunshine danced with both of them until she fell asleep on a bench and woke up just before sparklers. They didn't fly somewhere glamorous for a honeymoon. They took Sunshine to Disney because she wanted teacups and fireworks. They held both her hands while the sky burned color over a castle that knows too much about wishes. Sunshine stood on tiptoes to whisper in Olivia's ear. "Can we get a baby?" she asked with the soft conspiracy of kids who think whispering makes requests more reasonable. "Not today. Just soon." Olivia looked at Daniel. He lifted an eyebrow. She lifted one back. "We can try," Olivia told her, smiling. "Trying is our family's superpower. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a life." The house gets messy. Daniel forgets to buy milk on the exact morning. Sunshine needs it for a science thing. Olivia works a shift that breaks her in half and comes home quiet. Dorothy insists on pruning roses her own way, and the bush thrives out of pure fear. They keep choosing. Daniel still runs a fund. He just runs it like a man who knows the most important room isn't the boardroom. Olivia still carries other people's pain in both hands at work. She just knows some of it can be put down at the kitchen table, where a 9-year-old tells a knock-knock joke with terrible timing. Sunshine still saves things, moths, worms, a friend's feelings in the lunch line. She tries to save all the butterflies she can. Sometimes Daniel stands in the doorway of Sunshine's room and watches her sleep with a book face down beside her, and thinks about the day the air left his lungs on a sidewalk. He thinks how close a person can come to missing, the thing that turns everything into after. He texts Olivia from the hallway. "You're my after." She texts back. "You're my always." If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from, and your age. Rate it from 0-10 inches the comments and say which moment hit hardest. Sunshine's 911 call, the balcony, or the gazebo. Tap subscribe, hit the bell, and share this with someone who believes second chances show up in ordinary places. More stories like this drop every week. See you in the next one.